What's good, everybody? This fight card in Abu Dhabi is one of the sneaky banger ones that we love to see. There ends up being like 9 finishes. You look at the card, everyone like is hella randoms. You don't know anyone fighting, but there ends up being so many finishes, so many good fights. And in my opinion, maybe this is a hardcore Spanish hardcore take. There's a lot of interesting fighters here. We have John Pork, we got Steve Erceg, we got Dulatov, a lot of good guys, all right? The main event might actually be one of the least interesting matchups and least interesting performances on here. But let's get into it with the prelims. Starting off the prelims, I got an upset for y'all, all right? Hussein taking on Cody Gibson. Now, Abdul's a very twitchy, very explosive guy. He sets up his feints on the feet and the wrestling really well. You know, he has really damaging shots even for, I believe this is the bantamweight division. He has really good distance control. He's super young. My main concern is the lack of competition and the idea of the lights being a little bit too bright. All right. I think there's going to be a case of the UFC jitters. You know, Cody, he has really good pressure. He's not as good as Hussein in any technical aspect. You know, I'm kind of talking myself out of this pick, but he has really good pressure, really good like chain combination strikes when he senses weakness, and he makes his fight super nasty, a little bit like Justin Gaethje against Aliev. He can snatch up a submission. He can snatch up, he can hit a little fluky counter, and the only way he's lost is if in these scrambles his opponent is able to stay composed. I think the way Damon Blackshear, I believe he fought, and just snatch up a submission, one of these scrambles. I guess that he's not the most technical defensively or offensively, but I think, like, I might look really stupid for saying this in like 3 days, but I'm going to pick Cody Gibson because, like, and by round 3 TKO, I just think he's going to make this a dogfight. He's going to take, Hussein to deep waters. Hussein maybe wins the first round, but then a little bit gasses out, trying to finish Gibson, something like that. I just hope Hussein gets the UFC jitters. This is really what it comes down to for this pick. I don't really care who wins either way, but my idea is that one of these fighters has to get the UFC jitters, bro, statistically. And I'm picking the first one on the night. That's kind of what it comes down to, all right? Nurulo Aliev versus Mike Davis. Now, this fight is one of the easier ones to predict on this card, especially judging from their last matchups. Now, Aliev gets really sloppy on the feet, but I don't think there's going to be a factor against this fucking guy, Mike Davis, because from what we saw with Fares Ziam in his last fight, this guy can't defend a takedown, bro. He can't defend a takedown, and when the takedown threat's established, he does really bad with the striking on the feet. This is going to be a really boring, like, 2-round clinch fest. Maybe in the 3rd round, Aliev gets a little, Nurul Aliev gets a little bit tired, and we get a Davis maybe getting close to a finish, but not quite finishing him because he's also a little bit gassed. And we just get an Aliev, 3-round, 29-28 decision. That's what I see this fight being. If you guys, I know a lot of you guys use the women's fights as breaks, it's very mean of you. Okay, I invented feminism, by the way. I know you guys use the women's fights as breaks. I don't. I actually fuck with the women's fights, no joke. If you're going to take a piss break during this whole card, make it this fight, bro. It's going to be boring, all right? Unlike this next fight, Tuchalov, what's his name? Magomed Tuchalov, whatever, versus Branson Ribeiro. Now, you can't see it from this photo, all right? You don't appreciate the true magnitude of what I'm about to tell you about Ribeiro. But this fucking guy has the craziest facial bone structure I think I've ever seen. It's him and Oralby, bro. This guy looks like if you make a character in Arc and you just turn all the settings of the face all the way to like sharpness 100, and Oralby looks like a pug in human form. Like an Asian pug in human form. That's what he looks like. These guys are built crazy. Anyway, this is a light heavyweight matchup. Branson Ribeiro, he hits hard. He knocked out my Kazakhstani fighter, Nurzogay, something like that. He knocked him out. I remember watching that live. That was pretty tragic. But the main issue with Branson for me is that he's on a 3-fight losing streak, getting finished. And his opponent has never not finished a fighter. This guy's like 6-0, all finishes. He has 1 submission, 5 knockouts. He's a crazy finisher. Like, this guy deadass goes out to the finish. Again, light heavyweight division, anything could happen. But I'm going to pick the guy that keeps getting finished, has shown to have a good chin, even if he's gone up against lesser competition, over the guy that keeps getting chinned, keeps getting submissioned, whatever. Yeah, he did fight Cans, whatever, it's a light heavyweight division. But in my opinion, in the light heavyweight, how it is right now, and the heavyweight division, the difference between the Cans that we speak of, like the quote-unquote Cans, and the quote-unquote good fighters, is not that different, right? I think the 150 fighters, the 170 fighters in the UFC are way better than the fighters outside the UFC. Won championship. You want to talk about the PFL. You want to talk about whatever. They're way better in the UFC. But in the heavyweight division, you're telling me there's a big difference between Tai Tuivasa and any fat-ass motherfucker that you can find in the club, bruh? Like, honestly, genuinely, you tell me the difference between Tai Tuivasa, who trains at Planet Fitness 2 days before the fight, struggles, literally looks like fucking, what's his name? TJ Dillashaw, cutting down to 265. Like, you tell me the difference between Tai Tuivasa and any Australian, New Zealander bloke in the bar, 13 beers deep, that chins his mate. All right, tell me the difference between those two, because there's really not that much of a difference. That's my opinion with the light heavyweight division right now and the heavyweight division. Anything can happen, but I'm picking Tuchalov by round 1 KO. All right, on to the next matchup: Axel Sola versus Ismail Bonfim. I remember watching that Axel Sola fight. I believe he fought a guy from Wales. I forget who the guy's name was. Oh, Mason Jones, right? That was a hate watch for me. I remember I was with my French homie. So, you know, when I'm with my French homie, unless it's with Benoit Saint Denis, I'd be picking against all the French fighters and hoping they lose. You know, I picked against Fares Ziam while he was there. I picked against Morgan Charrier, all those guys. But yeah, man, I think that matchup with Mason Jones was really close. I remember I picked against Axel. Like I said, it was, you know, not only based on him being from a town called Nice. You know, this guy was literally from Sunshines and Rainbows land. But I also picked because of the stylistic matchup. But in this matchup, I think it's going to be super clear. Ismail is outmatched both on the feet and in the grappling. It's going to play out on the feet because, you know, Sola can shoot and get the takedown whenever he wants, right? And Bonfim's a typical guy that just lays on his back and throws up goofy-ass triangles, you know. Joe Rogan losing his mind talking about he's putting up a dead orchid or whatever. But I just think it's going to be on the feet. Axel Sola is a cleaner striker. He's going to be tagging Bonfim. Bonfim maybe tries to shoot in, you know, after getting tagged up for the first 2 rounds, and then just like gets reversed, ground and pound, submission attempts, whatever. I don't trust Axel Sola to finish a fight, but I can see this being like a very dominant 30-27, no questions asked, you know, throw in a 10-8 round if you're feeling extra generous for Axel Sola. All right, on to the next matchup: Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Sam Patterson. The UFC tattoo, I thought it was a swastika for a second. Anyway, tell me, any Argentinians I got in the chat, all right? Argentina lost the World Cup, as we know, to Spain. Sit down, all right? You guys lost to us. Argentina lost the World Cup, and I think Santiago is going to be brutally split decisioned by Sam Patterson. And any Argentinians watching, I want you to tell me, is it worse, all right? Think about this hard. Is it worse to watch Messi lose the World Cup, probably play his last matches with the international team, you know, international Argentina team, or is it worse to watch Santiago Ponzinibbio, the GOAT, lose a fight? Tell me, all right? Tell me what hurts more. Tell me what hurts your heart more as an Argentinian, all right? I think it's a very close matchup, a very hard question to answer. And I think this matchup, just coming back to this, it comes down to age, all right? Comes down to the English wanting to get the revenge over the Argentinians for the World Cup. Now, it comes down to age. Santiago's looked really bad for his last few fights. He's just old. He's like 41. I think he needs to pack it up. Needs to retire and stick to commentating. You know, he commentates pretty well. I think he always gives good breakdowns. You guys have probably never heard the Spanish commentators unless you guys are... I mean, I know, like, you know, I got Emmett LePage, a Canadian. I got some random people from... I don't even know where you guys are from, to be honest. But I'm from Spain. I've been making my content in English. I have an American accent. I don't even know where my audience is, honestly, if I have an audience. But yeah, man, Ponzinibbio is a good commentator. I think he should stick to that from now on. Just retire. He's done enough. At one point, he was ranked top 10. You know, has a good career. All right. On to the next matchup now. Dustin Jacoby versus Mohamed Said. Initially, I was going to pick Dustin Jacoby for the same reason that I was going to pick against Abdel Hussein. You know, the lights being too bright. These guys, you know, come into the UFC, they have these jitters. But I started watching some of these highlights, bro. Some of these Mohamed Said's highlights, I was like, hold on now. Felt like watching prime Derrick Rose in there. You know, a little bit of what you guys know about Zion Williamson in college, am I right? It's true that the Mohamed Said footage is like 50% in some random like basketball court somewhere. Looks like amateur fights. But this striking and the composure this guy has is honestly like, I think that's going to get him through those octagon jitters. And this might sound like blasphemy for MMA fans, but this guy, Said, reminds me of like a smaller Emelianenko on the feet. His composure, dead like poker face stare, no matter what's going on. This guy's heartbeat, he's always low cortisol. right? Low cortisol maxing. I do think Dustin Jacoby should be the favorite, like I said, for the same reason I picked that, well, a little bit different, but I do think Dustin Jacoby should be the favorite. He's gone against better competition. He's more proven. Maybe has more power. But man, every MMA YouTuber has to have that one pick that just sounds insane, bro. That's what has to happen. It's like as soon as you make your channel, you know, as soon as you upload your first MMA video, your neuronal capacity, how do you say it? The neurons in your brain, that shit stops working, bro. Like it gets rewired. Your prefrontal cortex, you know, the thing in charge of you having rational thinking, just might as well take that shit out, bro. That's what happens when you become an MMA YouTuber. So give me Muhammad Said by round 1, clinch, uppercut, KO. All right. If I don't get that exact pick right, you're welcome to slime out your own mother. All right. So your own mother's life on the line. You better hope Muhammad Said gets that pick right. All right. Walter Walker versus Thomas Petersen. Walker via heel hook, bro. I will never not pick Walter Walker against these fucking guys. This guy looks like the Michelin Man. I'm not picking him. I'm not picking Petersen, bro. Thomas Petersen. Motherfucker sounds like he's going to be delivering my newspaper in London, bruv. Right? Sounds like one of these guys paints their face for their club and is just in the club raging. Just a rager, bro. Comes home, screams at his wife. That's what Thomas Petersen sounds and looks like. I know he's a professional athlete, but goddamn, bro. God motherfucking damn. As long as Walter Walker's not fighting John Jones or Aspinall or Hokit, I'm going to pick him every time. None of these motherfuckers know how to defend heel hooks. Listen, I don't know how to defend a heel hook either. You know, it is what it is. Give me Walter Walker by submission, round 1. All right? And now for the main card. Now, this first fight, I got to say, I was disappointed, bro. Abubakar Vagaev versus Saygid Izagakamaev. Man, I was hyped when I saw this fight. I thought this was the Abubakar that got his PC smashed for playing too much PUBG with Mighty Mouse. But it's a whole different dude, bro. He don't even train with Khabib. But whatever. Abubakar, I was watching his highlights. He has really good pressure, really good striking. He uses all of his weapons, you know, the knees, the elbows. Really, like, he's really quick, and he has good power. On the other hand, Said has a very controlled and patient striking. Like, I think he might have a little bit of a better grappling. He's faced better competition. I think this will end up being a decision where Saygid over the 3 rounds ends up outstriking Vagaev, right? If anyone's going to get a knockout, it's going to be Abubakar. He goes for the finish really, really hard. But I do think that this is going to be a Saygid decision. I just think like this is a very good matchup. It's interesting to me because we don't usually see 2 Russian guys matched up against each other in this way. I think their grappling will cancel out, mostly because of their background, because, you know, I've seen in most of their fights, either they're the ones shooting and getting that shit. Like, nothing tells me that this won't be a stand-up fight. I think both guys are like, hey, I'm not going to tire myself out grappling him. We know we can both grapple. Let's just strike it out and let the gods decide, right? Let Allah pick a winner. That's my opinion on this fight. Give me Said Izagakamaev by decision. All right, striking decision. Rizvan Kuniev versus Tyrell Fortune. Another pair of blobs, man. Watching the Kuniev fight against Curtis Blade, I was thinking, yo, Loki, Rizvan Kuniev got robbed. I remember watching that fight live with my friend, and he picked the other guy just to spite me. Motherfucker doesn't even watch the UFC. He just said, oh, I'm going with the Russian. All right, bro. And yeah, I think he got robbed. I was glad, you know, for the win. And of course, while my friend was in the car, I was telling him, yeah, man, of course. Of course, Razor Blades won that fight. You know, Curtis Blades won that fight. Yeah, what are you talking about? You're crazy. But yeah, man, he was going toe-to-toe with Razor Blades. I think that qualifies him to be in the upper echelon of the heavyweights. And again, that doesn't mean much because you're now in Curtis Blades conversations, Josh Hokit conversations. These guys are good, but man, how far we've fallen from the Stipe Miocic days, man. Bring steroids back to the UFC. Look at these blobs, bruh. Anyway, Tyrell's win, Tyrell Fortune, you know, talking about him for a second. He has a win over Marcin Tybura. Does not move me one bit. All right, so give me Rizvan Kuniev by blob decision. I could see a TKO in the 2nd or 3rd round as well. But I'm going to go by decision. It seems like the pretty accurate move, the safe pick, you know, for these kind of fights. On to a fucking banger, bro. Chanko, John Pork versus Damian Rzepecki. We finally get to see our boy John Pork in action. He looked really good in his Contender Series fight. Chanko, you know, Muay Thai champion, has elite striking, super lethal. On paper, like, you look at this guy's, the way he fights and his striking and all that, and you think, this is what every UFC striker thinks they are. Sean O'Malley, right? Israel Adesanya, fucking, not Alex Pereira because he came in later. But you think about Paulo Costa maybe. These guys fight thinking, I'm going to outstrike everybody on the feet and I'm going to defend all the takedowns. This guy might actually do it, bro. He has world-class striking and he actually has takedown defense. Not that we've seen it that much, but I know he has that shit because he spends all day getting fucking touched and mauled by the best wrestlers in the world, bro. You're spending day after day after night getting taken down by Islam Makhachev and Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? You're not getting taken down by Rzepecki, bro. Damian Rzepecki or whatever bro's name is. It's really unfortunate that they have to match these two guys up because when I was watching this guy's tape, you know, I was doing my little study session on Damian. This guy's fucking elite. He's a good ass striker. I don't have a picture of him here because, you know, the UFC is lazy as hell. But it hurts my soul to pick against a Polish striker. But this guy is so good. You know, you guys know how much I fuck with these Poles. Chanko striking, he's just more proven. It's better, but Damian has really good mix-ups, bro. He has really good angles. He throws like these weird hammer fist strikes that he throws a hook, and then instead of like resetting, squaring himself back up, and then, you know, hitting some, like getting some torque into the opposite direction hook or an uppercut or whatever, he just kind of like hammer fists it back and turns that shit into a hook like Petr Yan style. He has seen like really, I've seen some really interesting stuff. You know, he fights like a young fighter, which is something, if you guys train, if you guys go to an MMA gym, a jiu-jitsu gym, whatever, you know these guys like that have been fighting since they were like 9 years old. Their dad put them in wrestling or jiu-jitsu or fucking, God forbid, you know, boxing and taekwondo or kickboxing. These guys fight with a creativity. They strike from all angles. They don't think, okay, I should throw a knee here. They just like, opponent is knee height, I'm fucking kneeing them, right? It's like a muscle. It's like a reaction. It's almost like they're conditioned at this point in their life to do that shit. You know, their corner never has to open their mouth. They're gonna always, you know, usually do what they've drilled, and it's just embedded in them. That's how Damian Rzepecki fights. He's in elite striking, and I will be picking him to win his next fight. I don't care who they put him against, bro. Give this man a contract, whatever you know, put him against fucking, I don't care, whoever. I'm picking him to win. I'm picking this guy. I'd pick Damian Rzepecki or Rzepecki, whatever his name is, to beat Quill and Salkill today, bro. Today. Watch this guy's the tape. I swear to God. But anyway, I think it's going to be Chanko clear. A little bit close, but a clear 30-27 decision. Great fighter, though. I will be keeping my eye on Damian for the fights to come. On to the featured fight, I believe. Featured fight of the evening. Islam Dulatov versus Wellington Turman. Dulatov's really good, man. And he's like a minus 700 favorite, which is crazy. It's like, that's boxing odds. But he's really that guy, bro. He's like the dude we all know that's just good at everything he does, and for whatever reason, he just chooses the most unstable, dangerous, and stupid profession to go into, dude. This fucking guy was genuinely a top model. He was like, hey, you know what? I actually want to go into one of the only sports where I risk breaking my face. You know, risk breaking one of my assets. But I'm not gonna lie, it's tough, bro. It's tough. You've seen the edits. Walking down the runway and then walking down into the octagon. That's tough. The fact that he still looks good, no diddy. He still retains like his good looks. I don't know how many fights he's in. He's like 11 fights deep, and I don't know how many fights are in his career. But this guy still looks good after so many fights. That's aura, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I sound like a 12-year-old kid. That's aura. You know, call it glazing, whatever. But yeah, man, he's beating Wellington Turman. I don't know if I have any Wellington Turman fans in the chat, if they exist at all. But I'm just not gonna pick the Gordon Ramsay special to do anything to Dulatov, bro. People think of your name and they think about a delicious meat pie, you know, cooked to a perfect pink medium rare, wrapped in pastry. That's what they think about when people say your name. All right. Striking wise, this is where this fight's gonna take place. Dulatov does way better. He has really good pressure. He fights in combinations. He has a height advantage. He has a reach advantage. I'm picking Dulatov to be a round 2 TKO, bro. I think he hurts Wellington off a single strike. You know, it might be like a hard jab, a stiff jab, across to the body maybe, a check hook, some kind of counter, and then just does this fucking DDP impression, run forward, and just throw hooks until the referee stops it. That's what I see happening, all right? On to the co-main event of the evening. Ramazan Temirov versus Steve Erceg. Now, I was going to pick Steve Erceg, just like instinctively, you know? Steve Erceg, this guy, skillful, good, you know, fresh. Gave Pantoja one of his hardest fights to date. But I'm sorry, guys. I'm picking Temirov. I was doing the tape study. His striking is so brutal. I've seen the craziest kicks I've ever seen for a flyweight. I think his only competition for that is Muhammad Makayev and Manel Cap. I've seen really good kicks from Manel Cap as well. But watching that tape, I was thinking, how have I never heard of this guy before? He's been fighting pro for 11 years, and he's 29. That means this guy was fighting fresh, 18-year-old, turned pro as soon as he quit. This guy's been fighting longer than 2 of my cousins have been alive. Bro, that's crazy. That's a level of commitment to the sport that's just insane. He's fought in Ryzen. He's been fighting in the UFC for the last couple years. And he just looks so speedy and powerful. I think he's going to chin Erceg, man. I came into this thinking, you know, Erceg's going to pull off his clean, patented 29-28 decision. But honestly, I think he's going to get caught early with a kick. Maybe a body kick. Maybe a high kick. I could see, you know, Temirov is a special. I think they called him, like, the best spinning heel kick user or whatever. I don't know. I remember seeing something like that when I was looking at the highlights. He has really good spinning heel kick. He has a really good switch kick, you know, to the head, to the body, whatever. I think he's going to get caught with one of those. He's not going to get knocked out, but his equilibrium is going to be messed up. I could see him getting, like, you know, getting hit with a leg kick, you know, John Jones style, and getting finished ground and pound. I can see that happening, man. Ramazan Temirov, you know, Steve Erceg's defense, like his striking defense, is just not up to par. And if Ramazan gets this fight, you will immediately, in my mind, like this guy will immediately become a title contender skill wise. Not immediately, right? We have a lot of guys in line. Also Mabayev, my Kazakh goat, right? We have Joshua Van supposed to fight Alexander Pantoja. Manel Cap deserves a shot. All these fighters, right? They've been looking good, man. But Ramazan Temirov, one of the most skilled fighters after what I've seen. And he looks Filipino too. I think he's from Uzbekistan. But hey, man, Filipinos, you guys have my permission to claim this guy, if you needed that in the first place. All right? On to the main event of the evening. Now, I'm sad we didn't get the main event, bro. I wanted to see Ankalaev versus Khalil. I think that's a really interesting matchup. I think that would look a lot like the Pereira fight, but maybe less of a dogfight, right? So I think maybe in that original matchup, Khalil Roundtree gets finished late by Ankalaev after gassing out like he seems to do in all his fights. But in this matchup, Ankalaev versus Guskov, I just see Bogdan as a bolder and less skilled version of Ankalaev, bro. No grappling, sloppier striking, hands down striking defense. Like, of course, the prime hands down chin, like move forward, fucking gamer neck all the way forward, just asking and praying to be hit. He has good power, but I saw how Ankalaev was able to survive in that first Pereira matchup. Of course, he got knocked out in the second, but, you know, shout out Pereira, that's my goat. Of course he was going to do that. I don't see late replacement Guskov having the gas tank or having to be any sort of worry for Ankalaev. There will be no takedown threat established. There will be no worry in Ankalaev's mind. He thought, I did this to Alex Pereira for 5 rounds. I can do it to Guskov. And I don't respect Ankalaev enough to give him the win by finish. So I'm just going to say Ankalaev by like 49, fucking 40. I don't know what the scorecard would be, right? 49-48? 49-36? I don't know. The scorecard where you go 5 rounds and you win 1. All right? Guskov wins like the 4th round after Ankalaev's like catching his breath or something. I don't know. That's what I think for the main event. Like I said, the main event is one of the least interesting matchups on this card. This is going to be a good-ass card. I just got some news that I'm probably going to be watching this with a friend for his birthday party. Absolute cinema, bro. Nothing's better than being unemployed and going to watch the UFC on a normal schedule on the weekend, all right? So thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think about these picks? What do you guys think about this fight night? I think it's pretty elite, bro. I'm not going to lie. Let me know down below. Thank you again for watching. Ciao, ciao.